I think on the blue letter. Second Kings 4. Yeah. All right, y'all. First and foremost, want to give all praise, glory, and honor to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and his son, the Hamashiach, some call Yahweh Shai, Yeshua, Yehoshua. We mostly know as Jesus Christ. Today's Wednesday's class, a few minutes late, but all praises we here. I'm gonna wait for a few people to get in, and then we'll start this thing up. It's a couple of chapters we gonna read, man. Chapters let me see here. Yeah, just 4, 5, and 8. All right, should be a short lesson. It's very, very it's not a meaty lesson, but there is good characteristics that we can glean from these particular stories here, and traits that we can apply to our lives in our daily walk in this thing, and how we need to operate. I pray everyone is doing well and had a good week thus far. But if we don't get nobody here, probably in the next 2-3 minutes, we're gonna go ahead and crank this soldier boy. We're gonna go ahead and crank it up. Let's talk about the Shuemite woman. We're gonna talk about Naaman. And some of the author's intent. Why these stories are even in here? Why did these stories even make it in the text? You can imagine some of the other stories, some of the other things that have happened that didn't make it in. But why did these particular stories make it in here? But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and start it up, y'all. All right, we're gonna read 2 Kings, the Shulam woman, woman slave, and her master, Naaman. All right, that's another point too. The woman slave and her master, Naaman. Let me see if I can go to blue letter here and present this. Share screen. All right, 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 1. It says, "Now there a certain woman of the wives of the sons of prophets unto Elisha, saying, Thy servant, my husband, is dead. And thou knowest that thy servant did fear the Lord, and the creditor is come to take unto him my 2 sons to be bondmen." All right. And imagine this, man, And that's what I'm saying. A lot of people want to be in leadership. You want to be in these great positions. You want to be called prophets and so forth. And, these are the situations that are coming upon you. Woman's coming upon you. Hey, my husband has died. We behind on the house. And they're about to take my 2 sons to make them slaves. The creditors are about to come take my 2 sons and make them slaves. And Elisha said unto her, What shall I do for thee? Tell me, what hast thou in thy house? And she said, Thine handmaid have not anything in thine house, save a pot of oil. Then he said, Go borrow thee vessels abroad to all thy neighbors, even empty vessels, borrow not a few. And when thou art come in, thou shalt shut the door upon thee and upon thy sons, and shall pour out the oil into all of these vessels, and thou shalt set aside that which is full. So she went from him and shut the door upon her and upon her sons, and brought the vessels to her, and she poured out. And that's a phrase there. Write that down. And she poured out. Write that down. And she poured out. And it came to pass when the vessels were full, then she said unto her son, Bring me yet a vessel. And he said unto her, There is not a vessel more. And the oil stayed. Then she came and told the man of God, and he said, go sell the oil, pay the debt, and live thou and thy children of the rest. And thy children of the rest. And it fell on the day that Elisha paid. Okay. So that's the first. That was a little bonus there with the oil that he told her that she poured out, and the oil just kept pouring. In some of these situations, man, what shall I do for thee? Tell me, verse 2, thou have thy house. And she said, thine handmaid not anything except this oil. And a lot of us have issues. A lot of us go through certain things. A lot of us have certain hardships. And what do you have in your house? A lot of us look on the outskirts. All right, we're looking for the miracle outside of ourselves. But what do you have in thine house? What is around you? What is near you? The same thing happened with Moses. I want to say in Exodus 4. And in the Most High asked Moses what you have. He told him, I got this staff, man. And he threw the staff down and turned into a snake. He ran away from the snake. And then he grabbed the snake and he turned it to this staff. And the staff is what he used, to hit the rock, to open the Red Sea, so forth. Certain tools, certain things that are around you, certain things that are inside of you, certain things surrounding you that you already have to get yourself out. That you already have to be used as a vessel to get you to that next level. Examine yourself, examine your surroundings when you get into these situations. Brother Dion, what's going on?
Hey, shalom, man.
Shalom, brother. Examine yourself when you get into these situations. What's around you. And then he told him to close the door. Pour that oil with the door closed. Everybody ain't got to see you pouring that oil. Everybody ain't got to see that miraculous work that's happening inside of that house. Close the door. Close the door on you and your sons. So that's just a short little lesson, short little inspiration there. In those first, those first couple of verses there. Powerful lesson. Powerful lesson that one can glean from. Sometimes we look outside of ourselves. Shalom, brother. That brother Michael? At Judah 48? I don't know, is it Judah 48 or Judah 45? Shalom, Mark. But yeah, we had 2 Kings chapter 4. We're gonna read chapter 4, chapter 5, and chapter 8. And you went over this class before. Don't sound pretty familiar. But yeah, it's a very important lesson there that we can glean from that. What we have, verse 8, I think now.
For 2 Kings 4 and 8. And it says, and it fell on a day that Elisha passed to Shunem, where was a great woman, and she constrained him to eat bread. And so it was that oft as he passed by, he turned in thither to eat bread. And she said unto her husband, behold, I perceive that this is an holy man of God, which passeth by us continually. Let us make a little chamber, I pray thee, on the wall, and let us set for him there a bed and a table and a stool and a candlestick. And it shall be when he cometh to us that he shall turn in thither. And it fell on a day that he came thither, and he turned into the chamber and lay there.
Now this is a great woman, meaning, she was wealthy. She was high in stature. And imagine your wife coming to you and saying, hey, I think this is a man of God that's passing by. She's been giving him bread and stuff, as he been passing by every now and then. But she proposes to her husband that, hey, let us build him a chamber. Let us build him a little room, a little shack, or a little connecting room or whatever, where he can lay down and he can have a candle and he can read and he can do the work of Yah. Let's do that for him. Today You know,
Good luck, World War III.
What in the world are you talking about? I'm finna build this man a little chamber, a little house. No, and we gonna see too another element to this that I can understand why the husband allowed this. You know, it's gonna be another element here. But I just want y'all to think about that. Like, you know, your wife coming to you saying she already done fed this joke a few times. You know, you raised your eyebrow, but now she talking about, man, let's build a little chamber, a little house on this. A man of y'all. Where we was at?
Verse 12.
Verse 12.
And he said to Gehazi, his servant, call this Shunammite. And when he had called her, she stood before him. And he said unto him, say now unto her, behold, thou hast been careful for us with all this care. What is to be done for thee? Wouldst thou be spoken for to the king or to the captain of the host? And she answered, I dwell among mine own people. And he said, what then is to be done for her? And Gehazi answered, verily, she have no child, and her husband is old. And he said, call her. And when he had called her, she stood in the door. And he said, about this season, according to the time of life, thou shalt embrace a son. And she said, nay, my lord, thou man of God, do not lie unto thine handmaid. And the woman conceived and bare a son at that season that Elisha had said unto her, according to the time of life.
All right, hold on, Shalakia. So, you know, Elijah comes and says, well, you know, what can we do for you? You done did this for us. You've been careful for us. You've been taking care of us. And, you know, what do you want? Want me to talk to the king? Want me to talk to the one of the captains in the military? She's like, nah, I kind of keep to myself. I kind of, you know, I don't need all of that. And Gehazi, he's seen some desire. He's seen some. And one thing he's seen is that her husband is very old. Her husband is old. And she don't have no children, and probably looking at it where she's not gonna be able to have no kids. And we know culturally that's, you know, for a woman not to have no kids was you know, that was one of the most terrible things that a woman could deal with. And so Gehazi said, well, you know what, you know, you can probably give her a kid. And so Elijah said, you know what, you're gonna have a child in this particular season, and then it end up happening. Now, this is a miraculous birth, whether you want to, to an extent, this is a miraculous birth. You know, the husband was old. He couldn't, they had to wait on that thing. And this happened through the power of Elisha. Making this happen to, through the Most High, of course. But this was a miraculous birth. The Most High had to intervene in this. And so, her not wanting the child, like, nah, don't do that. It's like, it's a bit much, but she wanted that child. She wanted that child more than anything. And to the extent where she couldn't risk it not happening. She couldn't risk it, somebody telling her and she getting her hopes up and it not happening. And so, no, don't tell that. But, it ended up happening. Where we at?
18. And when the child was grown, it fell on a day that he went out to his father to the reapers. And he said unto his father, my head, my head. And he said to a lad, carry him to his mother. And when he had taken him and brought him to his mother, he sat on her knees till noon and then died. And she went up and laid him on the bed of the man of God and shut the door upon him and went out. And she called unto her husband and said, send me, I pray thee, one of the young men and one of the asses, that I may run to the man of God and come again. And he said, wherefore wilt thou go to him today? It is neither new moon nor Sabbath. And she said, it shall be well.
And then this too here, you go to the man of God on the new moon and the Sabbath. All right, we see that he's like, hey, well, why are you going? Like, it ain't the Sabbath, it ain't the new moon. I can see you going on those days. But why are you going now? Why are you going now? And she's trying to, her son has died. This is extremely devastating to her. And this is what she was afraid of. Go ahead,
you know what, Shalakia, but I would say the reason he's saying it's neither new moon or a Sabbath is because she wouldn't know where to find him.
That could be that's a great possibility too. Yeah, like how you even know where he at?
Exactly. So, but yeah, I get it. Verse 23. And he said, for 24. Then she saddled an ass and said to her servant, drive and go forward. Slack not thy riding for me, except I bid thee. So she went and came unto the man of God to Mount Carmel. And it came to pass, when the man of God saw her afar off, that he said to Gehazi his servant, behold, yonder is that Shunemite. Run now, I pray thee, to meet her, and say unto her, is it well with thee? Is it well with thy husband? Is it well with the child? And she answered, it is well. And when she came to the man of God to the hill, she caught him by the feet, but Gehazi came near to thrust her away. And the man of God said, let her alone, for her soul is vexed within her. And the Lord hath hid it from me and have not told me.
He haven't told me. Shalakia. So when Elisha sees her afar off, he sends his servant, his apprentice. Gehazi is like an apprentice, but he got some character flaws. And he sends, and we're gonna see that as we continue to read. And he sends Gehazi to go meet the woman. Go run up there and meet her halfway and ask her, is what's wrong with her son? What's wrong with her? Is something wrong with her husband? Is all well? And she tells Gehazi what?
It's all good.
It's all good. But when she gets to Elijah, she does what?
Then she said, did I desire a son of my Lord? Did I not say, do not deceive me? Then he said to Gehazi, gird up thy loins and take my staff in thine hand and go thy way. If thou meet any man, salute him not. And if any salute thee, answer him not again. And lay my staff upon the face of the child. And the mother of the child said, as the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, I will not leave thee. And he arose and followed her.
Now look, now, of course, she told Gehazi everything was all good. She came to Elisha. She fell at his feet, weeping. Elisha don't know what's going on. He's like, the Lord done hid this from me. He finds out that the son is passed. He tells Gehazi, his apprentice, okay, well, you go. I want you to go ahead before us. And I want you to take this staff. And I want you to lay this staff on the child and, pretty much to heal the child. This is almost like a, like a passage or a rite of passage. Like you finna earn your wings. Let's see, are you ready, to graduate from the school of prophets? But the woman does not follow Gehazi. The Shulamite woman doesn't follow him. She tells Elisha, I ain't leaving here without you. I ain't leaving here without you. She already knew Gehazi ain't worth a dime.
No, sir.
She has no faith in Gehazi. She got no faith in Gehazi. Where we was at? 31?
We are at number 38. Oh, Shalakia. 31,
No,
you
it
right.
can't be that far. 31.
And Gehazi passed on before them and laid the staff upon the face of the child, but there was neither voice nor hearing. Wherefore he went again, wherefore he went again to meet him and told him, saying, the child is not awake. And when Elisha was come into the house, behold, the child was dead and laid upon his bed. He went in, therefore, and shut the door upon them twain and prayed unto the Lord. And he went up and laid upon the child and put his mouth upon his mouth and his eyes upon his eyes and his hands upon his hands. And he stretched himself upon the child, and the flesh of the child waxed warm. Then he returned and walked in the house to and fro, and went up and stretched himself upon him, and the child sneezed 7 times, and the child opened his eyes. And he called Gehazi and said, call this Shunammite. So he called her, and when she was come into him, he said, take up thy son. Then she went in and fell on his feet and bowed herself to the ground and took up her son and went out. And Elisha came again to Gilgal, and there was a dearth in the land, and the sons of the prophets were sitting before him. And he said unto his servant, set on the great pot and seethe pottage for the sons of the prophets.
So now he's going into another event here. Hebrew elevation. Yeah, I did see that. I seen it. I seen it.
What's that?
Deacon doing a video on or priest Hakah doing a video on Jesus having children in the kingdom.
Yeah, man.
And having wives. I was like, yeah.
You're reaching up.
Yeah, but yeah. But we see here, Gehazi, of course, couldn't revive the child. Elisha goes up there, lays on top of the child, warms the child up. And eventually the child wakes up. But another great point here is that he shut the door again. He shut the door on the two of them. Then the child sneezed 7 times. I know brother Eliezer gets into that. I know he did a class on that numerology and the meaning of some of these words, but there's probably some significance there on the 7 times that child sneezed. But I'm not the numerology guy on these numbers. I had to do research in it, but this is I just look at this stuff and notice it's something. I try not to overlook this stuff. You know what I'm saying? That it may be significance there with the 7 times he sneezed. Then she takes up her son. He bows down to him, so forth. And now Elisha is he done came back to Gilgal, and there's a potter's porch there to feed the prophets. All right, go ahead.
Verse 39. And one went out into the field to gather herbs and found a wild vine and gathered thereof wild gourds his lap full, and came and shred them into the pot of pottage, for they knew them not. So they poured out for the men to eat, and it came to pass as they were eating of the pottage that they cried out and said, "Oh, thou man of God, there is death in the pot." And they could not eat thereof. But he said, then bring meal. And he cast it into the pot. And he said, pour out for the people that they may eat. And there was no harm in the pot.
Now, brothers calling themselves prophets today, and they feel they prophets and they the prophets of the Lord. It's I don't know nobody in this community that deaf in that pot that I would trust. Once we discover this death in that pot, You gonna have to toss that out.
Uh,
I'm gonna miss that meal. I'm gonna miss that meal. And I'm saying, yeah, just saying, I haven't seen anyone that I had that faith in that's calling themselves a prophet uh, that I'm gonna eat that meal. But Elijah is different. He only had to tell him once. Hey man, bring that meal, throw some meal in the cast it inside of the pot. It'll be straight. Nobody's gonna die. Verse 42.
Verse 42. And there came a man from Baal Shalisha,
Elisha.
and brought the man of God bread and the first fruits, 20 loaves of barley and full ears of corn in the husk thereof. And they said, give unto the people that they may eat. And his servitor said, what should I set this before 100 men? He said again, give the people that they may eat, for thus saith the Lord, they shall eat, and they shall leave thereof. So he set it before them, and they did eat and left thereof, according to the word of the Lord.
All right. So before the 2 loaves, the 5 loaves, and the 5 fishes, we seen it multiplied during the time of Christ. Elijah had something similar happen where someone gave first fruits to Elisha and said, "Hey man, this is our first fruits of of our harvest. Here goes some bread and some corn and some Elijah like, man, give it to the people, let them eat." And the servant was like, this ain't finna feed 100 people. I don't know what y'all think. That man, give it to the people, and they'll eat, and there'll be some even left over, left thereof. So I'm going to chapter 5. Nope. Hold on 1 second. Let me switch this to chapter 5. All right, now let's get into Naaman the leper.
Chapter 5. Now Naaman, captain of the host of the king of Syria, was a great man with his master and honorable, because by him the Lord had given deliverance unto Syria. He was also a mighty man in valor, but he was a leper.
Now, who gave him deliverance? Who gave him deliverance unto Syria?
The Lord.
The Lord. The Lord used Naaman to give deliverance unto Syria. He was a mighty man of valor, but he was a leper. Go ahead, Out.
And the Syrians had gone out by companies and had brought away captive out of the land of Israel a little maid, and she waited on Naaman's wife. And she said unto her mistress, Would God my Lord were with the prophet that is in Samaria, for he would recover him of his leprosy.
Now they done grabbed a small, a little maid or a young woman. And he giving the woman to his wife out of Israel. All right, that's what that mistress is the master, slave master from a woman aspect. And this mistress is saying, I wish, that, your husband could go see the man of God, that the prophet that's out there in Samaria, because he could heal that leprosy. He could heal it. Verse 4.
Verse 4. And one went in and told his Lord, saying, Thus and thus said the maid that is of the land of Israel. And the king of Syria said, Go, and I will send a letter unto the king of Israel. And he departed and took with him 10 talents of silver and 6,000 pieces of gold and 10 changes of raiment. And he brought the letter to the king of Israel, saying, Now when this letter is come unto thee, behold, I have therewith sent Naaman, my servant, to thee, that thou mayest recover him of his leprosy. And it came to pass when the king of Israel had read the letter that he rent his clothes and said, Am I God to kill and to make alive, that this man doeth sin unto me to recover a man of his leprosy? Wherefore consider, I pray you, and see how he seeketh a quarrel against me.
Now, the king of Syria wanted Naaman, his one of his greatest soldiers, to get healed of his leprosy once he hears that there's a prophet in Samaria that can heal him. And so the king sends a letter to the king of Israel, and the king of Israel is like, man, what in the world are you talking about? We can heal him. Like, I'm not God. I can't heal this joker no leprosy. And you just want to fight. You just want to start a war. Go ahead.
And it was so, when Elisha, the man of God, had heard that the king of Israel had rent his clothes, that he sent to the king, saying, Wherefore hast thou rent thy clothes? Let him come now to me, and he shall know that there is a prophet in Israel. So Naaman came with his horses and with his chariot, and stood at the door of the house of Elisha. And Elisha sent a messenger unto him, saying, Go and wash in Jordan 7 times, and thy flesh shall come again to thee, and thou shalt be clean.
And Elijah, that's a pattern with Elijah. He always sends somebody out. Send Gehazi out there, man. Hey, go on. Hey, just go over there and tell him. Do this, Or go over there, man. Go on, run over there to the house. Take the staff with you. Go and run over there to the house and take care of that. He sends his messenger out. What we have, verse 11?
But Naaman was wroth and went away and said, Behold, I thought he will surely come out to me and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God and strike his hand over the place and recover the leper. Are not Abram
Shalakia too. And sometimes we already have this visual of how we want things to be or how the recovery is going to look. That we can miss certain signals, we can miss certain signs, and we can miss certain blessings and turn away from these things because it didn't look the way we thought it was going to look. It didn't come from the place that we thought it was going to come from. It didn't have the same glory that they thought it was going to have. It didn't have the same lights. He's like, man, I thought he was going to come to me, Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai Barakatah, and clap his hands and and lightning strike and hit me on the head with and then the leprosy just disappears. He talking about, man, go wash in the darn Jordan. And then he ain't even come out here. He sent one of his little mini me's. What was that? Verse 11?
Verse 11.
Verse 12.
Verse 12. Are not Abana and Pharpar, rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? May I not wash in them and be clean? So he turned and went away in rage. And her servant came near and spake unto him and said, My father, if the prophet had bid thee to do some great thing, wouldest thou not have done it? How much rather then when he said to thee, Wash and be clean? Then went he down and dipped himself 7 times in the Jordan, according to the saying of the man of God. And his flesh came again like unto the flesh of a little child, and he was clean.
And he was clean. But we see another pattern too, that these slaves are having to tell their master this and having to advise their masters. They don't have an attitude of vengeance. They're trying to get their master healed. And to the extent where they have to, counsel him and be like, well, listen, man, if he told you to do something of, great importance or something that was very difficult to do, or he asked for a certain amount of money, you probably would have paid it. But he's asking you to do something very simple, man. Just go in there and dip in the darn water. Why won't you do that? Why don't you take the time to do that? And again, we visualizing things, and we want the story to look the way we want the story to look, and sometimes that ain't the way it plays out. Sometimes it's the glory is there, but it's in a different vessel. All right, it's on a different picture frame. He even complains about, man, there's better rivers in Damascus. I don't know where we coming here for, but he goes and does it. Dips in the Jordan 7 times and comes out with the skin of a newborn. Verse 15.
O ye of little faith.
Come on now.
Verse 15. And he returned to the man of God, he and all his company, and came and stood before him. And he said, Behold, now I know that there is no God in all the earth but in Israel.
This is a Syrian. I understand now. Ain't no other gods. There ain't no other God but in Israel. Come on.
Now, therefore, I pray thee, take a blessing of thy servant. But he said, As the Lord liveth, before whom I stand, I will receive none. And he urged him to take it, but he refused. And Naaman said, Shall there not then, I pray thee, be given to thy servant 2 mules, burden of earth? For thy servant will henceforth offer neither burnt offering nor sacrifice unto other gods, but unto the Lord. In this thing the Lord pardon thy servant, that when my master goeth into the house of Rimmon to worship there, and he leaneth on my hand, and I bow myself in the house of Rimmon, when I bow down myself in the house of Rimmon, the Lord pardon thy servant in this thing. And he said unto him, Go in peace. So he departed from him a little way.
And so, he wouldn't take anything. Elisha wouldn't take anything from Naaman. And so Naaman asked, well, can at least can I at least get 2 mules burdened with the earth? Basically, let me get 2 mules packed down with some of the soil from here. All right, so that I can worship this God of Israel. So I can take this land and I can have me somewhere to worship on this dirt, even when I'm in Syria. And also pardon me, because the king is gonna go into the house of Rimmon. I'm gonna have to be there next to him. And I know that there's the only one true God on this earth, that's in Israel. But pardon thy servant of this thing, that I have to bow down to this Rimmon while I'm in service to the king of Syria. And Gehazi blessed him in that, told him, Go in peace. He departed his way. Verse 20.
Verse 20. But Gehazi, the servant of Elisha, the man of God, said, Behold, my master have not spared Naaman, this Syrian, in not receiving at his hands that which he brought. But as the Lord liveth, I will run after him and take somewhat of him. So Gehazi followed after Naaman, and when Naaman saw him running after him, he lighted down from the chariot to meet him and said, Is all well? And he said, All is well. My master have sent me, saying, Behold, even now there be come to me from Mount Ephraim 2 young men of the sons of the prophets. Give them, I pray thee, a talent of silver and 2 changes of garments. And Naaman said, Be content, take 2 talents. And he urged him and bound him 2 talents of silver in 2 bags with 2 changes of garments, and laid them upon 2 of his servants, and they bare them before him. And when he came to the tower, he took them from their hand and bestowed them in the house, and he let them go, and they departed. But he went in and stood before his master, and Elisha said unto him, Whence comest thou, Gehazi? And he said, Thy servant went no whither. And he, and he said unto him,
Wait a minute. What? And it took a great temptation. It's certain temptations, that break men where it was just too much. No, we gotta get something. We gotta get something. We can't let this Syrian just go ahead and leave after getting his healing. He offering us all this stuff, man, and Elisha didn't take nothing. Nah, man, I'm finna go get something. And Gehazi knows the power that Elisha has. But it was so much temptation that he still thought he can get away with it. It's like I told you, I was watching them doing videos with them folks with them writing them bad checks. And it's just a level of temptation for certain people where you gonna go in there and you ain't even memorized the fake ID. You so drunk with on the temptation that you done got a fake ID and a fake name and all of this stuff, and you don't even know that they ask you, well, what's your name? And you don't even know the name on the ID. You ain't even rehearsed how you gonna, get out of this thing. You just ran for the temptation to try to get this money. And Gehazi is pretty much and did that same spiel where he got blinded by his lust and forgot who he dealing with until he gets back in front. And now he has to lie to a prophet, to a real prophet. The prophet's asking questions he already know. Go ahead on.
And he said unto him, went not mine heart with thee when the man turned again from his chariot to meet thee? Is it a time to receive money and to receive garments and olive yards and vineyards and sheep and oxen and men servants and maid servants? The leprosy, therefore, of Naaman shall cleave unto thee and unto thy seed forever. And he went out from his presence a leper as white as snow.
All right, and so then that leprosy that was taken off of Naaman was placed on Gehazi. And this is just a little side note. Abba Bivens used to teach that's where the white man came from. One of the dudes who started One West. That used to be a doctrine. Because that white snow came on his seed forever. Not saying I agree with that doctrine. I don't agree with that, but just that was just one of the doctrines that used to be there. I don't think nobody teaches that now. But is this a time? We have to look at that, man. Is it a time to receive money, receive garments, olive yards, vineyards, sheep, oxen, men servants, maid servants? Is it a time for that? Are we in that season? Let's skip down to chapter 8. You had anything?
Yeah, I'm good.
Let's go down to chapter 8. Hold on, I'm telling you to go to chapter 8. I need to go there too.
This is 2 Kings chapter 8 and verse 1. You there?
Yeah, I'm there.
It says, then spake Elisha unto the woman whose son he had restored to life, saying, arise and go thou and thine household and sojourn wheresoever thou canst sojourn. For the Lord hath called for a famine, and it will also come upon the land 7 years. And the woman arose and did after the saying of the man of God, and she went with her household and sojourned in the land of the Philistines 7 years. And it came to pass at the 7th year end, the woman returned out of the land of the Philistines, and she went forth to cry unto the king for her house and for her land. And the king talked with Gehazi, the servant of the man of God, saying, tell me, I pray thee, all the great things that Elisha hath done. And it came to pass, as he was telling the king how he had restored a dead body to life, that behold, the woman whose son he had restored to life, cried to the king for her house and for her land. And Gehazi said, My lord, O king, this is the woman, and this is her son, whom Elisha restored to life. And when the king asked the woman, she told him. So the king appointed unto her a certain officer, saying, Restore all that was hers, and all the fruits of the field since the day that she left the land, even until now. And
That's all.
Elisha,
That's it. I think that's it. Yeah, I think we're gonna go into something else after that. But this is just a restoration of that Shulamite woman land. There was a drought that was gonna come in, and a famine that was gonna happen. And again, this all too stems from her kindness, and her carefulness for the prophets. Um, and he gave her warning that famine was going to come. Hey, go find you some people to stay with. She goes to the Philistines, but when she comes back after those 7 years, and it's funny how Gehazi done finessed his way in the midst of the king. And we can only speculate, but more than likely, I speculate he went and he talked to Naaman. Somehow he done finessed his way and got back to Naaman. Seen Naaman got in and somehow got back in that midst, but he is in the royal courts of Syria, and telling his king, all of these great things that Elisha has done. And this is how this woman ends up getting her land and getting restored all of her things back.
And Shalakia, but weren't lepers sort of looked at in a certain light? Like, especially he was not always a leper. He wasn't, born a leper. So he was cursed. Like, for his I use, for lack of a better word, for his disobedience, for his greed in a sense. But weren't they looked at in a certain light?
Yeah, they definitely were. It's another story of the lepers where and I probably could have threw it in here for time purposes, but it's somewhere in Second Kings, man. Maybe First Kings, but the Most High end up making like this great noise, like it was a military, and this other military that was fighting against Israel, they end up scattering and leaving everything behind. They left their tents empty. They left, but they left all of their stuff, food, clothes, all of this stuff. And there was a couple of lepers that were outside because the lepers can't be inside of they can't be in the congregation. They have to be on the outside gates. They can't be around. They will, but the lepers end up still telling Israel and saying, you know what, man, we just can't keep this to ourselves. Let's tell Israel and we'll bring this stuff in. And it was another part to that too, where he told this one dude that because of his doubt and his unfaithfulness, he said, man, food is gonna be sold for a penny, bread gonna be sold for a penny a loaf, but you ain't gonna see it. And when the lepers end up telling them Israel about the food and all the stuff that these people done left behind, because the Most High had made a noise where it seemed like these chariots and this war was coming to these people, they end up fleeing. It was so much food and bread there that they were selling bread for a loaf, and the king put him in charge. This particular officer in charge of the bread, but they end up trampling him and killing him and killing him. So he didn't get to eat of none of that bread. And I want to say that was Elisha too. It was either Elisha or Elijah, but I think it was Elisha. It was Elisha also. But there was a point where, it was so bad in Israel that they were trying to starve us out. That's how they used to beat us. They were trying to starve us out, and we had got to the point where we was we was eating the children. There was a point where the couple came to the king, was like, man, you know what? Um, I ate my child, and then we supposed to eat her child the next day, and then we wake up and they done disappeared.
Mm.
And the king was like, man, I'm finna kill this joker, man. I'm finna kill this prophet. And then the Most High ended up coming through. But yeah, let me find that just so I know I kind of just paraphrased, might have tore it up a little bit, but let me find it just for those who may want to research that and may want to look over that.
Yeah,
tonight.
I vaguely remember that story in one of our classes about the lepers and him getting trampled. But so when the Most High made that noise, is that not the story where? Yeah, I can't remember because I want to say that that's not the story where they weren't supposed to take none of the spoils. I remember a story where he
it was
said,
the 2 Kings 7. It was with Elijah. We were there.
"Okay,
We just skipped over it and went to chapter 8, but it's in chapter 7.
You want to read it or?"
Yeah, we can read it, man. We a little under an hour. Just start at chapter 1. The word, it should like you. The word said the captain getting murdered on the sexes. I seen that first opening round. I seen that first opening round, and I was saying to myself, it may be time for captain. The way that dude was putting that stuff out, the way he was explaining some of that's I'm like, man, maybe time for a captain. He may need to chill out for a while, man, and stop trying to jump in these debates. He really, that first round really, it kind of I was like, nah, he in trouble. I was like, he in trouble. He in trouble with it as soon as I see that first round. But I'm gonna go back and look at it tonight. But it didn't. That first round didn't even look good. But what we said we going to 2 Kings 7.
2 Kings 7:1. It says, "Then Elisha said, Hear ye the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord, tomorrow about this time shall a measure of fine flour be sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel, in the gate of Samaria. Uh, then a Lord on whose hand the king leaned answered the man of God and said, Behold, if the Lord would make windows in heaven, might this thing be? And he said, Behold, thou shalt see it with thine eyes, but shalt not eat thereof."
Yeah, he tried to make a little joke real quick. Who the king leaned on. Basically, he was a steward for the king. King, gave him a lot of responsibilities or whatever. He was like, man, yeah, if the windows of heaven opened up, then something like that might happen. But man, you tripping. So yeah, it's gonna happen. You're gonna see it with your eyes tomorrow, but you ain't gonna eat it. Verse 3.
Verse 3. And there were 4 leprous men at the entering in of the gate, and they said one to another, Why sit we here until we die? If we say we will enter into the city, then the famine is in the city, and we shall die there. And if we sit still here, we die also. Now therefore come and let us fall unto the host of the Syrians. If they save us alive, we shall live, and if they kill us, we shall but die.
Like, we gonna die anyway. It's famine inside of Samaria. We gonna starve to death there. We outside of the gate. We gonna starve to death. Man, we might well just go and turn ourselves into the Syrians and let and maybe they take us in and help us, or maybe they kill us. But either way, what we got to lose.
Verse 5. And they rose up in the twilight to go unto the camp of the Syrians. And when they were come to the uttermost part of the camp of Syria, behold, there was no man there. For the Lord had made the host of the Syrians to hear a noise of chariots and a noise of horses, even the noise of a great host. And they said one to another, Lo, the king of the Israel have hired against us the king of the Hittites and the king of the Egyptians to come upon us.
Man, they done made a what's the term I'm looking for?
Not a
But they done
tumult.
came together, a league or what?
Yes, not a tumult, right?
Tumult is an outcry. But I'm talking about something like where they come together, where three nations then came together. Oh, you say Confederate. But the Egyptians, they thinking like, man, they done hired the Egyptians and the Hittites to come against us, man. Go ahead.
Wherefore they arose and fled in the twilight, and left their tents and their horses and their asses, even the camp as it was, and fled for their life. And when these lepers came to the uttermost part of the camp, they went into one tent and did eat and drink, and carried thence silver and gold and raiment, and went and hid it, and came again and entered into another tent and carried thence also, and went and hid it. Then they said one to another, we do not will. This day is a day of good tidings, and we hold our peace. If we tarry till the morning light, some mischief will come upon us. Now therefore come, that we may go and tell the king's household.
Yeah, like they start feeling bad. They like, man, listen, we ain't doing right. You know, we trying to hide this stuff, man. Mess around, the morning comes, something gonna end up happening to us, man. You know, they spirit was condemning them. Like, nah, this ain't right. Let's go tell the king, man. Cause, you know, understanding that Israel, the northern kingdom is in there starving. And these jokers got a abundance of this stuff. They don't, you know, they trying to hide. They don't know what to do with it. But at the same time, they're treated as lepers. At the same time, but they didn't let that. And that's another lesson for that. It's like they didn't let that mistreatment that they got. They didn't let that bitterness get them to the point where they couldn't do what was right. And that was go tell that king that, hey man, there's food out here, man. We got food out here for the nation. Look what the Lord done did. Go ahead,
Verse 10. So they came and called unto the porter of the city, and they told them, saying, we came to the camp of the Syrians, and behold, there was no man there, neither voice of man, but horses tied and asses tied, and the tents as they were. And he called the porters, and they told it to the king's house within. And the king arose in the night and said unto his servants, I will now show you what the Syrians have done to us. They know that we be hungry. Therefore are they gone out of the camp to hide themselves in the field, saying, when they come out of the city, we shall catch them alive and get into the city. And one of the servants answered and said, let some take, I pray thee, 5 of the horses that remain, which are left in the city. Behold, there are as all the multitude of Israel that are left in it. Behold, I say, they are even as all the multitude of the Israelites that are consumed, and let us send and see. They took therefore 2 chariot horses, and the king sent after the host of the Syrians, saying, go and see. And they went after them into Jordan, and lo, all the way was full of garments and vessels, which the Syrians had cast away in their haste. And the messenger returned and told the king. And the people went out and spoiled the tents of the Syrians. So a measure of fine flour was sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel, according to the word of the Lord. And the king appointed the Lord, on whose hand he leaned, to have the charge of the gate. And the people trod upon him in the gate, and he died, as the man of God had said, who spake when the king came down to him. And it came to pass, as the man of God had spoken to the king, saying, 2 measures of barley for a shekel, and a measure of fine flour for a shekel, shall be tomorrow about this time at the gate of Samaria. And the Lord answered the man of God. He said, now, behold, if the Lord should make windows in the heaven, might such a thing be? And he said, behold, thou shalt see it with thine eyes, but thou shalt not, Shalakia, but thou shalt not eat thereof. But he already had some at first.
Nah,
So
he ain't touch. He ain't get. Nah,
he was the first one to notice it, right?
nah. He once they noticed it. Nah, the lepers were the first one to notice it.
Okay, right.
Yeah,
And
this is the soldier. This is pretty much like the governor, or pretty much of the king. Like the king. This is one of the king's most trusted, soldiers or whatever.
Gotcha.
And so
Okay.
he sent them down there and say, okay, well, yeah, okay, now we see it ain't a trap. We got all the food. Go down there and go to the gate and try to manage everything. And when he sent them down there, and they just repeating it now, repeating what the man of God said to him and what he said back.
Yeah,
Right.
That's my bad. So verse 19 again, it says, and the Lord answered the man of God and said, now behold, if the Lord should make windows in heaven, might such a thing be? And he said, behold, thou shalt see it with thine eyes, but thou shalt not eat thereof. And so it fell out unto him, for the people trod him in the gate, and he died.
Yeah. And got taken up out of there.
Crazy. Keep your mouth shut. Humble thyself.
People are just go ahead.
It seemed like it seemed like, even that, so something that small, like, you don't think you would get that, you would deserve that, but we don't know how good we got it nowadays, huh? Like people speaking out of tongue now, speaking out of turn, like talking crazy about some of the stuff all this stuff, sex in the kingdom and babies, Jesus having babies, and who are you to where you get these thoughts from? Where is that written at? Like for real,
and like you say, calling yourselves prophets and
man. And you know what happened to the prophets? They know what happened to the prophets.
Right.
It's like you putting that on yourself. Like you trying to get boiled. You know what I'm saying? Like
you trying to get glory.
Yeah,
you want the reverence.
That's exactly what it is.
And they didn't operate like that. Elijah didn't operate like that. They want to be a prophet, but they got the spirit of Gehazi. They want the shekels in the garments and the reverence and the respect. Be careful with that. Shalom, brother Eleazar. Are you good, bro?
Hey, man. Shalom, brothers, man. Yeah, how about you? Man. Hey, man. Sorry for being late, man. It's been one of those days for you, brother. Pray for your brother.
Yeah, it's all good.
Pray for your brother. But yeah, man. And I was just listening to what y'all was saying about wanting that glory, man. But the prophets always stayed on the run, man, against wicked Israel, man. The scripture said, "Too much is given as much as too much is given, much is required." And we want the glory, but we don't want the pain that come with it, brother. Right. But I'm listening, man. Shalaki for being late, brother.
No, you good, bro. Slave woman, just some little quick mentions. Caring while suffering. That slave woman, that little slave woman from that Naaman had captured out of Israel. She still cared enough about her master to say, hey, you know what? There's a prophet in Israel that can heal you of that leprosy. There's a forgiveness within that. Using the opportunity to spread the news of the true God. If possible, live peaceable with all men. That was just Romans 12:8 connected with that. Naaman versus the centurion. One master healing his slave, the other a slave healing the other a slave healing her master. If you know the story of the centurion wanted a healing for his slave, his servant. And then vice versa with Naaman, the servant actually helped him to go get healed, her master get healed. Notice of Naaman responds to the directions of Elijah compared to how the centurion responds to Christ. In Matthew 8:5, of course, the centurion was like, man, listen, you ain't got to step in my house. You ain't got to say nothing. I know it's done. But with Naaman was like, nah, dip into Jordan. Dip into Jordan 7 times. I ain't dipping in that trash. I thought you was going to do this and da-da-da-da-da, woo-de-woo, and clap your hands and jump up and down, and then some thunder coming. And that's how I thought you was going to hit. But the centurion, he didn't. All Christ had to say is, "Man, it's done." All right. The centurion had a good report among the Jews. Naaman tried to purchase his healing. Okay. Naaman, he took a lot of vessels with him. He took a lot of garments with him. He took the gold because he thought, this is what happens, man. We pay for this stuff. We go to the magicians and we go to these sorcerers, and there's always a fee. All right, and there's a couple of verses there also. Let me see what I got in there. Ultimately, a comparison of faith. All right, between Naaman and versus the centurion. The Shunammite woman versus the Good Samaritan. Stories had similarities in hospitality, sharing, and how to treat your neighbor, and especially a man of Yah. Lessons on speaking and spreading the gospel when the opportunity presents itself. Supporting those doing the Most High's work, comfort, rest, fellowship, encouragement, kind words, etc. Seek to serve even in suffering. We all have thorns. We all have things we got to go through. We all, so even in your suffering, still seeking the opportunity to serve. The Shunammite woman, she was married to an older man and didn't have children, but she still was caring and a nurturing person, where she would feed the prophet anytime she got the opportunity, to the extent where she asked her husband to build him a little hut where they can lodge and have candlelights and she can take care of them. And the same thing with the Good Samaritan. Samaritan took the man of Yah in. Well, not the man of Yah, but he took the individual in and lodged them and seen the opportunity to to be a Good Samaritan and do what a lot of what other people didn't do that passed by. And again, understanding the author's intent and why these stories were there. Probably initially orally passed down, and then written in history where we can go over these things to this very day. Elisha and Gehazi. Gehazi in training still shows lack of faith, just as apostles. There was issues with the apostles also with their faith. Elisha sees the opportunity. The king misses to spread the gospel. Gehazi reminds me of a young Peter. Elisha, ultimate test, letting Yahweh be done. Let Yahweh will be done. Shows a compassion for his people and great restraint. And that was it on that, y'all. Did y'all have anything? Anybody had anything in closing?
No, it's always good to have these little read-alongs, man. I enjoy them, man. So I look forward to it.
Hey, Shalaki, and I think that we was talking earlier about how how we see these things continue to play out. Like the scripture in Ecclesiastes 1:9, it says, "There's no new thing under the sun." Of even though the times change, far as technology and all that, but we see the spirit stays the same. It remains the same, and it all boiled down to that faith. Like that trusting in your power, trusting in your God, through it all. From the little bit I have quite under the class, and so yeah, it boiled down to how much you believe. It boiled down to that faith. It boiled down to that trust. Hebrews 11:1, that without faith it's impossible to please God, and that's a part of pleasing God, is how you trust in Him, how you rely on that power and not in yourselves. And I think that's a lesson that the body of Israel need to kind of adopt. Man, we get so caught up into the flesh that we don't understand that none of this war is fleshly, is all spiritual, and have always been spiritual. And like you were saying about thank you, remember Brother Dion was saying about Dion said that we don't know how good we got it, and how we want to be prophets, and how we want to be have sex in the kingdom. See, that's all the flesh, and Israel is too carnal. So man, for what I have heard, man, great insight, man, and all praises to the Most High, brother.
Yeah, man, all praise, excellent point. It does, it does border, and some of these stories, even some of the comparisons that were made on the last few slides. So just stories we've seen in the Old Testament, stories we've seen in the New. And these stories continue, even though we got different technologies and so forth, it's the same same temptation, same discipline, same level of faith that's needed to avoid these things. And we can see these same mistakes happening and same triumphs over these certain things. But and that's why it's important that we go over these things and read these. Hold on one second. My battery about to go dead on my computer. And read these stories. And that's why they're here. That's why they're in the text. You know what I'm saying? Like I was saying, these read-alongs, they necessary. But again, y'all, appreciate everybody for listening in. See y'all on the next one. Pray this thing was edifying. Y'all be blessed. Israel, shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom.